Story 1. You cannot heal in the place that makes you sick. My therapist said this to me when I told her my husband was abusive. I left him a year later. Story 2. That which you do unto the least of my people, that you do unto me. I was taught that this was in the Bible, but I am not religious, so I am not sure. The point is, do not treat people badly because they are vulnerable or in a worse position than you. Story 3. This is my first time commenting here, but I would like to share my story. Sorry if it is too long. I remember helping out at a washing station in my small town. The owner was an old lady, very friendly but passive-aggressive. It never bothered me, but I used to be really shy and quiet. I barely talked, my posture was poor, and she noticed. So she had a talk with me. She said, "If you keep being like this, people will look down on you, and you will never be able to have a high rank." From that day on, she made me work at the register even though I was only 13 and not allowed to based on the law. She also made me walk around with a book on my head for 5 minutes. If it fell, I had to do another 5 minutes, and so on. We became pretty close to the point that she offered me her shop once she retired. When it was time for school, she gave me 20 euros when we said our goodbyes. Of course, it was not a lot, but 13-year-old me was smiling ear to ear. She still greets me and asks me about my life when we meet, and I always try to find a reason to go to her shop because she is the reason I managed to stand up for myself in situations where I would have made myself smaller. I always walk around with my head up now, which I never did. I always looked at the ground, and people told me I have changed a lot and that I have become much more confident. I am really grateful that I got to meet her. Story 4. Don't light yourself on fire to warm other people. This was impactful during my struggle with anxiety, stress, and panic disorder. Story 5. You can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the bunch, but there will always be someone who dislikes peaches. By the time I turned 30, I fully understood the analogy and stopped my people-pleasing ways. Story 6. I want you to live. Sounds silly. I was not actively suicidal at the time, nor was I having a breakdown. But he said it, and up until that point, he had been nothing but honest with me, so I knew it was the truth. I stopped feeling terrible about the space I took up in the world because I think it helped me realize I wanted myself to live as well. Story 7. No society can legitimately call itself civilized if a sick person is denied medical aid because of lack of means. Anurin Bevan. Story 8. Two things can be true at the same time. I forget the original context I heard this in, but it applies to many situations. Story 9. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Do not wallow in regret. Start today. Story 10. Perception is reality. You may be working hard, but if people perceive you as lazy, that is their reality. Story 11. Be like the bison. Most animals, when faced with a storm, will run and hide or seek shelter, but not the bison. The bison will head towards the storm because it knows the storm will pass more quickly. Story 12. I remember picking up a pamphlet in a Buddhist temple and reading the simple idea that Buddhists try to love strangers as much as they love family and friends. I had not been raised to think like this, and it blew my mind. The idea settled into my heart immediately, and I have been working on it ever since. This nudge into spiritual thinking has been really helpful in my life and is a much nicer path than the one I was on. Story 13. You only attract people who are as mentally healthy as you are in both friendships and relationships. This really made me take stock of who is in my life and what that says about me. I have been working hard over the last few years to become mentally healthy so I can attract and keep better people in my life. Story 14. I'm sorry, but your father is dead. I was 17. I picked out the casket and made all the funeral decisions because mom and dad were divorced, and she didn't think it was her place. Story 15. It's not about not caring what anyone thinks. It's about not caring what just anyone thinks. Once you find your people, their opinions should definitely be valued. It is hard to see that when you have never been supported. Story 16. It is nice to be important. It is more important to be nice. Effort takes zero talent. Anger is only one letter away from danger. Story 17. You are not as important as you think you are. Not in a condescending or mean way, but everyone has their own challenges. No one is judging your outfit or new hair choice. No one can tell you have social anxiety. No one cares that you are eating alone or going to the movies alone. As long as you are not being unkind, no one is talking about you the way you think they are. Story 18. You have cancer changed my life the first time I heard it in 2004 and the more than 20 recurrences since. Still fighting. Story 19. Assess yourself often and try your hardest to improve. Assess others occasionally and do not expect them to change too much. Story 20. Maybe someday you will learn how to be there for the living, not just for the dead. I read that line in a book, and it has stuck with me. It helped me through the death of my father and father-in-law. Most of my other family just gave up on life, leaving me feeling alone. I am currently on palliative care with my mother and going through this alone again. Some days I want to give up, but there are so many people still here on earth who are worth living for, including myself. The best way I can honor those who wanted so badly to live is not to waste the precious time I have being miserable. Story 21. If you stay ahead, you will never fall behind. My former manager at Red Lobster told me this in 2008. I was the nighttime prep cook, and for some reason, this has always stuck with me. I do not work in the restaurant business anymore, thank God, no offense to those who do, but I still apply this to my current job. Story 22. Acting is a great way to get rich, but a horrible way to make a living. My acting coach told me that when I was 23, I realized I did not want to throw away a comfortable life to chase an unrealistic dream. Now at 29, I am an electrician making almost $100,000 yearly. Story 23. You would not worry nearly so much about what people think of you if you realized how infrequently they do. Story 24. Our situation is this. Most people in this world believe that the creator of the universe has written a book. Sam Harris. Story 25. How long are you going to let yourself suffer? Said my first therapist when I did not want to take antidepressants. Story 26. Are you more interested in being heard or being effective? A mentor said this to me when I was a young executive. Completely changed my life. Story 27. Nice is not the same as good. The best thing I have ever heard. It makes it much easier to understand people. Story 28. Forgive me for my brief answer. Call your elected representatives. Nobody can stop you. Story 29. It's a selfish world. People will use you and discard you when you are no longer useful to them. They will, without a second thought, betray you to save themselves. My first manager. Story 30. Don't be an idiot. Changed my life. Now, before I do something, I ask, would a foolish person do this? If they would, I don't do that thing. Story 31. You will be amazed at what you attract after you start believing in what you deserve. I read this quote 1.5 years ago and decided it was time to start living by it. My life has changed so much for the better. Story 32. It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not weakness, that is life. Excellent advice from Jean-Luc Picard. Story 33. When I was struggling to let go of a toxic friend group because I feared being alone, someone asked, "So you would drink poison because you are thirsty?" Story 34. Both the past and the future are just thoughts arising in the present, so the present is all that really matters. This has eased my mind as a sufferer of anxiety. Story 35. You do not have to like it, you just have to do it, said my dad. I do not have to like going to the gym and working out, I just have to do it. I do not have to like eating healthy food most of the time, I just have to do it. I do not have to like saving 10% of my paycheck instead of spending it on fun things, I just have to do it. I do not have to like getting up early and working long days, I just have to do it. Story 36. When you have too many tasks to manage, remember that some are fragile, but most are durable, and it is okay to let the durable ones go. I started going to therapy when my middle child was experiencing severe mental health issues, my youngest was a toddler, and I was working full-time. I was having panic attacks from the stress, and this was the most useful thing my therapist told me. Nobody was being harder on me than myself. Story 37. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. James Brown 1968 release. Totally changed my self-esteem and outlook on life. As a dark-skinned male child in Alabama in the 60s, I bore the disdain of many, including other black people. Among ourselves, if you wanted to insult somebody, you didn't just call them a derogatory name, you called them a black derogatory name. James Brown changed that for me, and that is why, to this day, I don't refer to myself as African American. I proudly call myself black. Story 38. There are two ways to look at life. 1. Nobody cares. 2. Nobody cares. Story 39. Do not sweat the small stuff, and everything is small stuff. It will all work out in the end, and if it does not, then it is not the end. Story 40. I've got two, probably seen somewhere on the internet, so I can't properly credit. Others may bring out the best in you, but that best still belongs to you. Money will return. Time will not. Story 41. True love is not transactional. My husband said this after watching me constantly try to prove my worth. Story 42. If you are going to cry, cry the whole way, but just go. My son said this to me when I was leaving his father. I was questioning my decision and feeling scared. I expected him to say, okay, maybe you should stay and keep trying. But even he knew. He was 17 at the time. Those words still stay with me. Story 43. If you are willing to look at another person's behavior toward you as a reflection of the state of their relationship with themselves rather than a statement about your value as a person, then you will, over a period of time, cease to react at all. Yogi Bhajan. Story 44. Our problem started when you lost weight and began acting confident. My ex, a narcissistic abuser. Story 45. I do anything to look like you. For those who care, I have had low self-esteem and confidence my entire life, convinced I was average, fair but nothing special. One day, a colleague said, "We're the two best-looking people here by far." I asked what he meant, and he said he would do anything to look like me. This happened a few months ago and has now helped me find my confidence. Shout out to my former work colleague. He has no idea the difference he has made. Story 46. Taking the Lord's name in vain is not about swearing. It is about misusing religion to justify oppression and manipulation. Story 47. When I confided in someone about something I was afraid to do, he said, "You can do it because you are real name." It changed my life and outlook forever for the better. Story 48. Find your grandparents or someone of age. Pay respects to the path they paved, to the life to which they were dedicated. That should be celebrated. Neon Gravestones by 21 Pilots. This hit me hard as a 15-year-old who felt completely alone in the world at that time and needed a purpose to live. Story 49. If you want to have things you have never had before, you have to do things you have never done before. Story 50. I would rather have questions that I cannot answer than answers that I cannot question. Richard Feynman. Story 51. If you do not listen to your body when it speaks quietly, you will have to listen to it when it speaks loudly. Story 52. Do not sacrifice your breaks or feel obligated to stay late because I promise you, even if you were able to fully clear the queue by the end of the day, there will always be a full queue to tackle tomorrow morning. Do not burn yourself out over something you will not only never get recognized or acknowledged for, but also will not get compensated for with a raise. Story 53. My very Southern grandmother always said, in the good book it says, "And it came to pass not, and it came to stay. All things come to an end." This has helped so many times. Perspective, everyone. Story 54. Anais Nin quote. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Story 55. Nobody knows what they are doing. I used to have so much self-doubt until I realized literally everyone is making it up as they go along and trying their best. Nobody just knows what they are doing 100% of the time. In that moment, I realized I can do so much more than I thought I could because I did not need to know how. I just need to be able to figure it out, and I know that I can figure it out. Story 56. Bad things are going to find all of us in life no matter what we do. Why are you standing around crying and waiting for it instead of focusing on all the good things? Not quite verbatim, but close to what I recall. My old landlady said that to me when I was a mopey, self-absorbed, woe-is-me 20-something. She had lost two of her children tragically, faced several personal challenges like surviving stage 4 cancer, and losing her home to a fire. She said it so plainly and clearly, and then casually turned back to her rose garden and continued clipping as I stood there having an epiphany over what she had just said. Story 57. Completely changed your life, maybe a stretch, but I was inspired by a line from a song from the TV show Futurama. When push comes to shove, you've got to do what you love, even if it is not a good idea. If something gives you pleasure and does not come at the expense of anyone else, what more reason do you need? Story 58. Your dad was in the hospital. 5 weeks later, he died. He had a brain bleed that led to strokes. He went into a coma and never came out. My dad was my best friend. From the time I can remember, all I wanted to do was hang out with him. We worked and did hobbies together. He was more than just my father and my best friend. He was the only person I have ever known where I could truly be myself without any fear of judgment. My wife is close, but it is just not the same. I do not know how to describe it without sounding strange, but my soul has been alone since he passed. I have a big family, friends, and now my wife, but I still feel alone every day. I know that sounds odd. After he died, I had to get a new job, completely change my life, and learn to truly be self-dependent. His passing has definitely made me grow from a child to a man, and I am thankful for that. It has been 7 years, and I still miss my best friend every single day. Story 59. This is not the only one, but it is the first one. My English teacher once quoted a movie. It is supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. It is the hard that makes it great. I was 16 and suffering terribly from depression for the first, but not last time. Every time I feel I cannot go on, that quote echoes in my head. Now I am at a point where I am no longer depressed and enjoy life again. Many friends and loved ones have pointed out how stubborn I am, no matter how much life kicks me around. He will never know how he changed the course of my life. Story 60. Hanlon's Principle. Do not attribute to evil what can be explained by stupidity. The world became less menacing and cruel, much dumber, though. I can laugh at dumb. Story 61. Even if you are in the deep end of the pool, just try to float. Do not let yourself sink, even if it means making a fool of yourself. Eventually, you will find yourself in the shallow end where you can plant your feet. My mother told me this after a severe depressive episode that put me in the hospital. I could not handle existing anymore, and I was struggling to get through it. I used to compare my depression to being in a hole with knives, having to stand completely still to avoid being cut. When she used that metaphor, I have since shared it with every person I have seen struggling in my life. It makes a world of difference. Story 62. You cannot hate yourself into a version of yourself that you love. Only self-compassion and kindness can do that. Story 63. Stop playing the victim and take responsibility for your choices. It changed my life, along with getting sober and receiving mental health treatment. Story 64. Your brain is lying to you. When you hear that negative inner voice bullying you and being mean to you, do not listen. Your brain is lying to you. When you have the thought that things will never get better, that you will always feel this bad or sad, you will not. Your brain is lying to you. Story 65. Did you choose to be heterosexual, or are you just heterosexual? Made me pause, reframe, and begin to correct my homophobic philosophy. Story 66. Fiduciary responsibility is important, and it is the job of the individual to look out for those in power. Keep moving forward because life does not stop. Story 67. It is not your fault. Just like the movie Good Will Hunting, I think that was the name. It hit me just like the actor portrayed. Those are the most powerful words ever said to me. Story 68. Whatever you put out into the world, whether kindness or harm, will always find its way back to you, sometimes in ways you least expect and often twice as strong. Story 69. And some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? From Lord of the Rings was the thing that crystallized my opposition to the death penalty. The full quote is, "Many that live deserve death." and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then do not be too eager to deal out death in judgment. For even the very wise cannot see all ends. Story 70. Do you want to be right? Or do you want to be happy? I do not want to see you become a person to whom life just happens. Story 71. I got married, and my father told my husband to control me better. My husband told him no one controls her. Story 72. Not everyone is going to be your friend. You need to differentiate between friends and acquaintances. A friend is a person who cares about you. An acquaintance is someone you know. I was about 18 or 19 when my manager at Circuit City told me this after someone I knew used me, and I was upset going to work. My manager, Gene, explained further and said you cannot trust everyone wholeheartedly. He understood that I am a very nice person. He told me there are people who take advantage of nice people and that he hates to see one hurt. Gene, you are a great manager. Thank you wherever you are. I teach my children this lesson when necessary. Story 73. A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure despite overwhelming obstacles. Story 74. Everything falls by its own weight. A friend said this to me in Spanish over 30 years ago, and I translated it. It liberated me from fretting about other people's bad behavior or feeling a need to do anything about it. En Spanish, todo cae por su propio peso. Story 75. Several. A woman never belongs to a man. It was just your turn. A woman does not really love a man. She just loves the way he makes her feel. I have been through hell and walked out fireproof. You can win in the end simply because you refuse to give up. It only takes one big win or one moment of defiance to completely change your life. Story 76. Take the extra 5 minutes now. It will save you 5 hours later. My dad when talking about preparing for anything. Story 77. Desiderata. My dad's mantra. Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly. Listen to others, even to the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter. For always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love. For in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations. In the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. Story 78. Recently, someone told me that if you accidentally overhear something, you were actually meant to hear it. Story 79. Worrying means you suffer twice. I used to have major anxiety because I would always think people were judging me. My therapist said, "Who cares?" And I said, "Me." She asked, "Are you going to go up to them and ask what you think they are thinking or saying about you?" I said, "No." She replied, "Then move on. Even if you are not going to say anything, why give them your energy?" It took me a while to realize I was creating so much anxiety by worrying about hypotheticals. Don't get me wrong, I still worry sometimes. but I am quicker to get over it. Story 80. So you want to get paid to lie? My dad said that to me in front of others when I talked about becoming a meteorologist, which was my dream. Weather was my passion and obsession. I wanted to be a meteorologist from a very early age. I believe I was around 4 years old. My father, whom I love very much, said this in front of a group of people who all laughed when I was about 10 to 12 years old. My passion was crushed, and now I cannot even name different types of clouds. I believe this really derailed my life path. It is burned into my memory and makes me sad at times when I think about it. Now I am just someone trying to figure out what to do with this life. Story 81. If I am thinking positively, do not worry about the things you cannot control. It is always a net loss. If I am thinking negatively, you have leukemia. Oddly enough, the positive came from the negative. Story 82. My father, with tears in his eyes, said, "Stop saying you are going to do something and just do it." He is not an emotional man, and he was very right about me being more words than action. Now he is shocked when I just do something without discussion first. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.